Now you may start the time. Fellow Toastmasters, the flowers in May are so wonderful. It is something that just touches the heart. My first recollection of knowing how much I appreciated May flowers, well, spring flowers, was when I was a senior in high school. My mom was having a few physical problems, and her doctor said that it would be good for her to take a week or two off from work and for her to take a trip. And it was my senior year in high school, and I was all caught up with my studies. So I took a week off of school. Mom and I went to Victoria, British Columbia. We first went to my uncle Raymond's house. He lived in the Seattle area. He drove us to Anacortes, Washington, where Mom and I were walk-ins on the ferry. We took the ferry from Anacortes, Washington to Sydney, British Columbia, through the San Juan Islands. And if you've never taken that ferry ride, it is a very beautiful ferry ride. We stop at all the little islands, and it's just pretty. Once we got to Victoria, well, in Sydney, we rented a car and drove to Victoria, which was just a few miles from Sydney. We did all the normal tourist things, but the part that I remember the most was our visit to Bouchard Gardens. Bouchard Gardens is amazing in the spring. If you've never been there, any time of year is beautiful. And I've been there at other times of the year, but spring is the absolute best. The tulips and the daffodils and the flowers, the pink trees and everything that bloom, they are just so wonderful. Just absolutely amazing. In my yard, I enjoy walking around in the spring, looking at the hyacinths and tulips and the daffodils. This year I had some very amazing daffodils. They had ruffly flowers and just different shades of white and yellow. And I love the smell of the daffodils. Inside my little grow room, I'm growing some flowers that will get planted outside in a week or 2 or 3. And I had a Cosmo bloom. I know it was early and it should have waited until it got planted out, but it didn't. It bloomed indoors. And so I picked it and I enjoyed it. Cosmos are not usually spring flowers, but this one decided to be. From springs past in my yard, I've enjoyed the primroses and the hellebores and a pink flower that I can never remember the name of. And it starts blooming in the spring and it blooms all summer long. Whereas most of the spring flowers just bloom in the springtime, April and May. Sometimes some of them start in March. Spring's past. I've enjoyed the apple tree as it blooms out. The apple blossoms are absolutely precious. And our lilac trees bloom and they smell so good. I have a little white lilac right up next to the back porch. It's very pretty too. Growing up, we had a lilac tree right outside our kitchen window. And as we walked out the sidewalk toward the end of our sidewalk, where we went through the gate to go out where we parked the cars, my mom had on one side a mock orange bush and on the other side a syringa bush. And both of them smelled so heavenly. The thing about spring Mayflowers is many of them have wonderful, wonderful smells. The irises bloom in the spring. Ours are just about ready to bloom outside right now. And then we have a plum tree, and a tree out in front that I don't know the name of. My What's This app says it's a pear, but it has never borne any fruit. So I think it's just a decorative tree. So we have, here's a better picture of the tulips and apple blossoms. I have yellow tulips and red tulips, and the yellow ones are amazing this year. I have one out by my back porch that's a double tulip. It's just petals everywhere, full and precious and beautiful. It is the best thing ever. Oh. So Mayflowers are just, they touch the heart. They're the thing that starts your summer off with beautiful things to look at. The flowers later in the year are good and beautiful, but there's just something about the Mayflowers, April, May flowers, that are more wonderful than anything a person could imagine. It's like breath for the soul. And that is why I like my Mayflowers. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.